Cheer people, what's good? And yes, I've finally finished Spider-Man. I've done all of the main missions. I've seen the main ending and the two after credits endings, which were actually pretty cool. I was thinking about, I wonder if they're going to include those after credits endings. So that was pretty cool to see. I'm 83% in the game, so I've still got a little bit more collecting to do. I've still got more challenges that I need to do, and I think I've got a couple of side missions I need to finish off. But for the most part, yeah, I'm 83% completed the game, and I'm thinking of going. Well, I would like to go and get that platinum as well, but I'll see what I want to do because I'm also playing Shadow of the Tomb Raider as well. So I'll see how I feel. But yeah, I thought I'd come at you fellas with a quick review of Spider-Man for the PS4 Pro. Okay, so first off, I want to get all of the things that I like about the game out of the way first, and then after that I'll get into certain aspects of the game that I didn't like so much, or things that I would like for them to change in an upcoming sequel, which I'm sure they are going to make a sequel. So first off, what do I like? Now, I think one of the best things about this Marvel Spider-Man is definitely that web swinging. That web swinging feels a lot more like it just feels good, right? It feels great as you're swinging up and down through the city. You can feel yourself, like you can feel the momentum as Spider-Man is, like you can really feel him diving and swinging back up, and then he's as well as he's doing his gymnastic tricks, flipping through the air, and that it not only does it feel great mechanically, but it looks great too on screen. Him flipping around doing his acrobatic moves, it looks so cool and fluent, and I think they really nailed this web swinging down, and you can tell it's one of the best things about Spider-Man. Moving on to the graphics, look, I think the graphics look fine. You know, for me, I think that, and in some aspects of like the city and that with the sunset, and it looks amazing. It definitely looks great. In most areas of the video game, there are certain bits here and there that kind of, like, you can tell, they kind of maybe skipped. Not necessarily downgraded, but I guess you can tell that, okay, they didn't focus on certain aspects, and you can sort of see it. But for the most part, look, mate, the graphics are fine. They do the job, and the the reflections sort of from the windows and that, those actually need to be properly done, because Spider-Man has no reflections. Yeah, so pretty much Spider-Man is a vampire. Pretty much, you know, so that's kind of a bit of a downer. But other than that, the graphics are pretty damn good. And it's not as bad as what we all thought it was. Although it does look a bit shifty in some areas, like the reflection. But other than that, it looks great. It looks great. On to the voice acting and the cast. I think whoever they voiced, whoever they cast for Spider-Man, for Peter Parker, I think does a bloody good job. I really believe that he was Peter and Spider-Man. I think they casted the right person to do the voice acting for Peter and for Spider-Man. I think he sounds great, and he delivers his lines very well, even to the point where he does 2 sets of dialogue. So one when he's not web swinging, and then he does the same dialogue for when he is web swinging. It's actually a really nice touch. And it sounds great when you're web swinging and he's talking on the phone to Aunt May or Mary Jane or whoever else. It's pretty cool, and I like that little detail. As well as the other villains. Like, look, I thought the other villains are okay. You know, that there was some voice acting that were a little bit cheesy, if I can be real. Yes, they were cheesy, like they done the old Spider-Man, you know. I'm gonna get you, Spider-Man, and it's just like, yeah, it's like, some of the villains were cheesy, but then again, like, Spider-Man is old, and even the villains themselves, like Vulture, Rhino, they're all old villains. So so I guess even though there were some like cheesy lines and that, and your typical cheesy villain, but I thought it still fit the story, and it fit the characters, because they like, I think all of Spider-Man's villains are pretty cheesy, but that's just me. And as for the combat, I mean, look, I really enjoyed the combat. It's very fluent, very crisp, and very clean, would be the words that I would use, because he does a lot of flipping, a lot of back flips and forward flips, right? And like, it's really cool how they've made the fighting, because you really see his fighting style, because he does a lot of flips and stuff like that. You have the ability to grab certain objects from around the world and throw them at enemies. You can web up enemies, and if you can buy, there's a certain skill where you can actually throw a webbed enemy at other webbed enemies. You can also throw a webbed enemy towards a wall or a side of a building or against a car, and the enemy will be stuck, which is something that, especially if you're playing on spectacular mode, which is what I do, I found it actually quite easy to just web enemies and then stick them to walls, because because you'll be able to sort of defeat enemies a lot easier if you web them up to walls. If you can do that fast, then it's a lot easier, instead of having to fight the same enemy sort of twice and maybe even 3 times, because of the difficulty that you're on. So I quite like that trick, and it's actually really satisfying webbing enemies. I love it. And of course the story, I was actually getting, like, the story for the most part, I liked it because it wasn't just about Spider-Man, right? It was also about Peter, and I liked how they intertwined Peter Parker's life and his struggles as a man, as a young man that he goes through, like as in trying to help his auntie, Aunt May, with her homeless shelter thing, right? And as well as trying to pay for his rent and working as a scientist, right? And then on top of that, you've got the whole Spider-Man and him trying to save the city and trying to save everybody, taking out villains, taking out crime, and saving people. I liked it. I really liked the story because it swapped between the two. Most other video games, they only focus on Batman, or like the Arkham games only focus on Batman, not really Bruce Wayne. And the other Spider-Man games were they were okay, but I think this one here, it like, they really made Peter Parker like an important piece to the overall narrative of the story. I liked it, and I like swapping between the two, being Spider-Man and Peter. I liked how how you can see him sort of struggle, and you see him juggle, trying to be a superhero and trying to be Peter as well. So I liked it. I definitely liked the story and the script writing. I liked it. And especially at the end, there were some bits where I got a little bit teary-eyed, to be like, especially towards the end. I was getting some feels. I was like, oh, it's happening. but I think that also gives credit to the voice actors as well. Who they voiced for Dr. Octavius, and Aunt May, and Harry's father. I've forgotten his name. Mr. Osborne. But yeah, I liked the casting, and they delivered their lines well, and the storyline as well, especially that ending. That ending sort of got me. I was like, damn, I did feel some feels at that one. But yeah, it's pretty enjoyable. Now, last but not least, I just want to sort of go over very quickly on the stuff that I did not enjoy, because there was a fair bit that I was kind of frustrated with or annoyed with. First off, I think the one that I absolutely hated, right, the one thing that really pissed me off actually, was that wall crawling. I don't know what it was, but I don't know who designed that wall crawling, but that wall crawling was kind of atrocious. Like, it just felt so stiff and so awkward, and I never wall crawled. Like, I tried to avoid wall crawling as much as I could, because it was terrible. I did not like it, and they need to bring an update to Spider-Man to make the wall crawling a lot more smoother and easier to navigate when you're on a wall, because it's just weird and it just feels so awkward and stiff, right? So that's one of the things that I really hated, actually. The other thing was as I said before, the reflection. I think it would have been nice to have at least Spider-Man's reflection to be shown in the windows and that around the city. I think that would have been cool, but as I said before, you play as a vampire, because you can't see his you can't see his reflection. Okay, so there's that. Another thing was a part of the combat. You know how if you've played the Batman Arkham games, Batman has the ability to counter attack 4 enemies, or up to 4 enemies at once, right? If you can tap the counter button 4 times, you can actually counter attack 4 enemies at once, and it looks great. Whereas you see in Spider-Man, how they've programmed it is that Spider-Man can only dodge 1 attack. It don't matter. So let's say 4 enemies are attacking Spider-Man. Spider-Man can only dodge 1 of those attacks. And as for the other 3 attacks, well, good luck, because they're going to hit you. And that happens to me every time, especially when you get to the later parts, like sort of close to the ending, right, of the video game. There's a lot of enemies that come at you, and it's just hard. It's really hard, especially when you got 4 or 5 enemies attacking you at once. You can't do anything. You can dodge 1 of those attacks, and as for the other 3 or 4, you good luck, mate, with that, because I always get hit. So if they could maybe give Spider-Man the ability to dodge 4 different enemies, at least 4 enemies at once, that would be nice, thanks. And last it would have to be the stealth. The stealth was okay. I was interested to see how Spider-Man sort of would do stealth in that, but it was very mediocre. The stealth is in my opinion nowhere near as good as the Batman games, but that's just me. Especially being able to stealth take down 2 enemies, right? Spider-Man can only take down 1 enemy at a time, and I'm just like, oh really, 1? But whereas in the Batman games, obviously you can stealth take down 2 enemies at once, but in Spider-Man it's only 1, as well as there's no crouch button, so there's that as well. But yeah, that's pretty much it. That's all my thoughts at the moment. I might go back and do the platinum, but I'll see how I feel. But yeah, I hope you fellas enjoyed. It's definitely a day 1 purchase, definitely. Like, if you've got a PS4 and you haven't gotten around to playing this, I would highly suggest you put this game on your list to play for this year. Or if you're waiting and you're saving up money, I would, consider saving up for this game, because this game deserves your attention. It's very well crafted, and a very well crafted Spider-Man game at that. it's the best Spider-Man game you're going to play. I can guarantee. I can definitely guarantee that. But yeah, that's me. I'm done. Thank you fellas for watching. Catch you fellas in my next video. Peace.
So, should we kiss now? Yeah, maybe later.